Okay, welcome. I just wanted to make this short video on using AI and in SACE, and particularly here in your investigations folio tasks in science, which is your science as a human endeavour or your SHE task, and your practical reports. Obviously, there's been huge amounts of developments in AI over the last 1 to 2 years, and the way it's being used in schools and by students and by teachers. And I know sometimes it's not always clear exactly what's okay and what's not okay, and how can you use it best and make the best use of it to help you out with your assignments. So most of what I've got here is based around information from the SACE board website, but I've just sort of condensed it down a bit into a nice single one-page document, and I want to just make this short lesson, this short video, short flip lesson, explaining what you can do with AI and what you can't do, and how hopefully you can best use it to help you be successful. So, first question. Can students use generative AI in their school-based assessments and investigations? And the short answer to that question is yes. However, the important thing to really remember is here, and this is coming from the SACE board, we encourage broad research from a number of sources and for students to always view sources critically. So what does that mean? That means you shouldn't just use AI as your only source of information. You should use to look a broad range, you should look to use a broad range of sources. In the same way as teachers might say to you, oh, you shouldn't just use Wikipedia. You should look to use sources other than Wikipedia. It can be a good starting point, but it shouldn't be your only source. You should also view sources critically. Wikipedia is generally a pretty reliable page, but anyone can edit Wikipedia, so sometimes people will go in there and put false information in there. Generally, because so many people use Wikipedia, if someone sees that, they will flag it, and it has a mechanism of sort of monitoring itself. That doesn't always happen with AI, and AI, like Wikipedia, can have unreliable information. It can, what we say, AIs can hallucinate and give information that isn't quite correct. So that's why we should always be looking for other sources to support what the AI is saying, and we should be looking at that information critically and saying, is that really correct, or is that reliable information? So what way can AI be used in submitted tasks? So as I sort of talked about there, it can definitely be used to research and inform. So to come up with notes, to come up with ideas, to do that sort of background research to find information that you might need for a task. As with traditional sources, students cannot use text directly from generative AI and present it as their own though. So you can't just get the AI to write your assignment. That's not appropriate, as in same way that plagiarizing and copying and pasting off the internet is not appropriate either. The other way that you can use AI, other than just for the research and background information, is to support their assessment and develop their writing. And what I'm really talking about here is you can use it for that sort of proofreading and drafting type process, and to improve the quality of your writing. There's already a lot of tools in word processors that are doing that. We've got some predictive text, we've got spelling and grammar checks. All those sort of things already exist. There is also websites that will do that sort of thing for you. It is important though to remember that the work submitted must be your own and not written by the AI. So you can use the AI to support your writing, but not to replace it. You can't just give your essay to it and say, rewrite this whole essay for me, but you can go through bit by bit, get suggestions, and look at ways to improve it. As I said, really emphasizing, students must not submit work generated by AI as their own work. So just some quick examples of that. You've probably seen in Microsoft Word, it does the little lines under the letters. This is just the exemplar task I put up. But there is also this editor tab up here, and that will give you information about spelling, grammar, other information about your writing. This similarity is also a bit of a plagiarism check that allows to check that you haven't got too much stuff there that's plagiarized. I know from this one there's 3 things that it flagged. One of those was just the title of a reference, so that obviously came off the internet, so no surprise that it flagged that. The other 2 were only sort of short sentences that I didn't feel I wasn't concerned about. But if that number is getting up to 20, 30, 40%, then obviously I'm going to be a little bit concerned about plagiarism. There is also websites like Quillbot, which I'll just hang on a sec. It's always the way. Exit drawing. The box on the screen's in the way. There. Quillbot is a website. It can do that grammar checking as well, but it can also do like paraphrasing. So we can put in a paragraph here. We can generally only put up in the free version up to 125 words, and it'll give us some ideas for how that we could rephrase that. And we might want to go for fluency. We might want to go for standard. Some of these you've got to pay to get the extra. Yeah, you've got to unlock. But it'll give you some suggestions to make your work sound clearer. But please don't just rely on those suggestions, because again, it will often take what you've said and make it sound clearer and more fluent. But sometimes it will misunderstand what you say, and it will write it in a way that suddenly it doesn't make sense, and that's going to be pretty obvious to the person who's marking it. So it's really important that you just don't tell it, rewrite my assignment for it, but give me some suggestions, read through those, check the information it is giving you is reasonable and makes sense. Moving along. If you're using AI, how do you acknowledge that AI? And it's just like, if you're doing research on the web, you've got to acknowledge your sources, or if you're talking and interviewing people, or if you're looking at books and that sort of thing, in books, all those sort of things, you've got to acknowledge your sources. Same deal with AI. And what we're looking for when you're referencing AI tools is that you should provide details of the technology you use, like EdChat or ChatGPT, etc., or Quillbot, the other one I had there. You need to list the prompts that you have used and the date that you use them. And you've got to talk about, or briefly just say what you did with the output of those prompts. So as an example here, I used OpenAI, ChatGPT, so I used ChatGPT. These were my prompts and the date. And then I used these prompts to make a list of ideas that I refined for my essay. So this was probably an English example. So you can use it in that planning type process. And if you do that, you just need to add something. It doesn't count towards your word count at the end of your document in your references, just showing how you use the AI. If we do a check of your work and it's showing evidence of AI and that's not there, we're going to be a bit more sus. Whereas if you've said, they've used the AI for this, and then when we do a check and it says, there's some evidence of AI, well, that makes sense because they've used AI to help do this bit. Helps with the verification of your work, which I'm going to talk about at the end. What are the AI tools out there that you can use? The one I recommend is definitely EdChat, that is provided by the department. It is actually trained on a lot of stuff to do with school and SACE in South Australia, so on SACE board documents and department documents and curriculum. So it's going to be what we call a lot better trained, a lot better informed than a lot more of the generic AI bots that you would use. I suspect EdChat is based on ChatGPT, but it's just been particularly trained on stuff that's relevant to students and teachers in South Australia. But there is also things like Claude, Gemini, Quillbot, which I mentioned before, and there's a lot of other AI tools out there. DeepSeek's one that's been in the news. But as I said, I'd be recommending using EdChat. If you want to find EdChat, the way to do that, the easiest way is, there's a couple of ways. Each school will have a different setup, but most people go through this EdPass, and you can get into EdChat, and it will log you in there. Or you can just put this edchat.sa.edu.au address in, and you'll probably have to log in, but I think it should get you there. This should work at school. A lot of the other AI tools will not work at school. They will be on block lists and ban lists, but this one should work at school, and you should be able to access that at school, no problems. So yeah, EdChat, really good starting point if you're looking for an AI tool. Just move myself out of the way. Just to finish off by talking about verification. A teacher needs to be able to verify all your work. The easiest way for me to be able to do that, and for you to have confidence that you're not going to go wrong and get into trouble for using AI too much or plagiarism, is if you work in the document provided on Teams, which keeps a history of all the changes and versions. So we can go in there and look. I can do that probably really quickly now. I can go to my OneDrive, which is here. Let's say I go into Stage 1 Chemistry. I'm going to look at my documents in student work, which is where you guys are working. I can look at your working files. I don't need to wait for you to submit. I can come down to here and click on a student. I've got the task, which is the she task, and I've got the document here, and I can go version history, and I can see there this student, Ollie, obviously has already done 22 different, there's been 22 different times that this document is saved, from the 23rd to the 26th, over 3 days. And I'm going to be able to look in those and clearly see the development of his ideas, that he's doing the right thing, and that, sorry, I'll just get rid of that box, that's annoying me. And I can verify his work really easily that way. The other thing, keep notes of your planning and your note taking. If you're using the SACE guide, well, that's really easy, because I can, I didn't really want to open that, but I can go into that and I can see the notes within there and the planning and that sort of thing in the document. So again, that's good verification of your work. So yeah, if you are working in Teams, keeping your document there, keeping notes either in Teams, or at least if you're doing it somewhere else, of your notes if they're handwritten and you're planning. So if there is any question mark, I can have a look at those. I'm not going to get them in every case, but if there is any questions about verifying the work, then I'm able to do that as well. And remember, sorry, I'll just move myself back up here, your work will be checked for inappropriate use of AI and plagiarism. Hopefully when I check it, there's no real issue. If I check it and I'm a bit concerned, my first point of call will be to go back and look at the history of these documents and your planning and your notes to see if I can see that evidence of it being developed. If that's not there, that's when we might have to have the awkward conversation. Okay, hopefully that explains how you can use AI to help you out, how to use it properly, also what not to do, and how you can basically confidently use AI to hopefully improve the quality of work, make your life a bit easier, but not end up doing the wrong thing and having to have those conversations about that. Thank you very much. Cheers.